Okay, let's look at this. I'm not sure how much we lost a little bit when it ran out of time. So I'm going to pick it up without me having watched the video and continue the idea. I'm going to continue the idea here. So let's look at this. So in the key of C, C is the fifth of the fourth of C. So it's the key of F. So you look at the key, and when you look at 4 here, okay, and that would be the LPM would be the 5 right there. So C is the fifth of the fourth of a major key built off of the fourth of C. It's got to be variable like that, because then you can put the capo anywhere. Okay, put the capo on the E maybe, right? So you can think a little easier. People like to think in E. So the lowest playable note, let's look at something. Let's not lose our little gauges here. So let's look at root. All right, so the key of root, okay, the lowest playable note on this instrument right now is E. Right there. That's the lowest playable note. Okay, so lowest playable note is E. I forgot where we are. Okay, we're up here. Okay, so, all right. What is E? Are we considering E the root? E could be anything. If you look at the dot scale, it's a C major scale. Here's E, mostly an E. The dot scale is a C major scale because it's 2 whole steps from the lowest playable note. That means E could be what? The third of C, the second of D, the root of E, the seventh of F, the sixth of G, the fifth of A, the fourth of B, and the third of C again. But now we also add the 5 accidentals, okay, where E is like the flatted third of D flat. It's the flatted second of E flat, okay. E is the flatted fifth of G flat and all that good stuff. So that's where we get the other 5 right here, the other 5 keys. All right, so let's read this. LPN equals lowest playable note in any open cage. All perfect fifths counting up in keys that are that scale degree of which the open string LPN, lowest playable note, is the key number. Okay, I wrote is the twice. I guess if you guys found that, kudos to you, because that's what it should say. Which the open string LPN is the key number. Okay, so that's how that works. We want to keep that fluentness. That's why you won't see on this diagram here, you'll see key of 2. Sure, in the key of C, that's the key of D, but you won't see a D there. Okay, because we don't want to be limited to C as the lowest playable note or something like that. So let's review this chart and move on, because we've got some really great stuff to cover today and we don't have a lot of time to do it. So we have the P4 guitar. The top string of the guitar is the same string shape as the bottom string, as you know. So we've got root 2, 3, and root 2, 3. The first 2 notes just happen to be do, re, mi. Remember that song? Same string shape. Okay, so we've got that dupe. Now we've only got a 5-string cello, fiddle, violin here because we can't get up this high. Hi. I get stupid sometimes. You can't get up this high. We can't get a string like that unless we actually put a string this big right there. But there's no reason to. We have that up here. We have it up here. That's kind of a tight string there. So, for my fingers, my old fingers. So, we don't need the top string because in a reflected mirror image that will become the bottom string. So this is why there's this like void down here that looks like a string shape that is invisible, because that is the mirror image of that. Let's look at that. That's the mirror image down there, okay? And yeah, it's going to be right underneath the 5 if I'm not mistaken, because if it's a mirror image, why wouldn't it be? Why wouldn't it be right under that 5 if it's a mirror image? So you see the mirror image. So it's an invisible string down below. We just do away with it, and the 4th of E, the 4th of E. Remember, in guitar, when we go up in string shapes, going up in string shape 5th, in cello, fiddle, violin, we're going up in string shape 4ths. So that would be, that leaves the bottom string as the A string shape. That's why we call it. And it's the key of 4 there, kind of written in kind of like a sunset font there. Sorry about that. Okay, so let's realize that these are mirror images here. Now, it became necessary to not worry about them being mirror images, but I'll just show you one of the chords here. In the C box over here, we've got a regular C, 5 root 3, 5. Now it looks like an E-shaped C instead of a D-shaped C up there. Remember I talked about that with P4 tuning, perfect P4 tuning all the way through. Dun, dun, dun. Remember? Unwarped. Okay, so the opposite of that is this guy. Bop, bop. 5. See how it's opposite of that shape, and then the invisible would be down here. I found that wasn't as helpful as just finding out what they are, use this as a checking method, and learn these. And I resolved it to learning those, and that's much better. So see, we have all of the mirror images and all 12 here. What is going on here? We have, this is the bottom. What are the string shapes? They're the bottom string chord fragment of the cage. So 5, 6, 7 root, we have a cage for that. It's the cage that starts on 5, 6, 7 root. Here it is. Okay, right here. 5, 6, 7 root. So there's a cage. That defines a cage. And remember, it goes straight up. So it's perfect 7-note cages. So let's move ahead in charts. Okay, and now we have another chart where I've refined the same information. I'm just refining the information now. We've stripped off the mirror images. So now we're on our own. No more training wheels. Just thought I'd show you what I'm doing during the breaks. Is my morning energy drink. So we've got, now this is the giant fretboard, 5-string CFV fretboard. By the way, folks, just like when I kind of invented the 94 key piano, it's to complete a circle of major sevenths. Okay, so we're not going to jump back to that right now. But so we just take it to the limit a little bit further. To get all 12 here, we need this much fretboard. That's all. We're just using this hypothetical fretboard up here. We're not going to be that long in reality.